ways you might not expect.
I'm at the kitchen table and I'm about to do something really simple that could help me feel fuller for longer and improve my digestion and blood sugars. I'm going to eat my meal, which is in front of me, really, really slowly and enjoy every mouthful. That's good. Eat slowly is something my mother used to say to me all the time, but it seems that science has finally caught up with her. Because it can take 20 minutes or so from when we start eating for your brain to register you've had enough, simply slowing down could lead to feeling more satiated in the short term. Not only that, but in the long term, it could have a big impact, as research has linked a leisurely pace of eating to lower levels of cholesterol and less belly fat. So how about slowing down? I'll be speaking to Stewart, who works with the emergency services in Glasgow, to see if he can make his mealtimes last a bit longer.
Hello, Stewart.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Now, what's your day-to-day routine like at the moment?
I work a variety of shifts, so I can be getting up at maybe 5 in the morning for 1 week, and then the next week I'm still up about 6 in the morning, but I don't get to bed till maybe midnight or 1 o'clock.
That's really tough, and I imagine it has an impact on your diet. What's your diet like?
Generally, my breakfast, lunch and dinner is usually quite good, but the issue I've noticed is if I finish at midnight or 1 in the morning, instead of coming in and going straight to bed, I'll just start snacking and I'll have like toast, juice and crisps. And before you know it, it's like maybe 2:30, 3 in the morning. So my sleep is quite disturbed.
When you snack, when you eat your meals, do you linger over them or do you tend to wolf them down?
I tend to wolf them down. Usually my food is kind of inhaled as opposed to eating.
And what is your health generally like at the moment? Is there anything you'd like to change?
I'm overweight. I'd like to change that. I'm about 2.5 stone overweight, which isn't great for my age.
I've got a challenge for you, which I think will help. I want you to spend more time, 20 minutes more, on your lunch and your dinner.
Okay.
I want you to take your time. I want you to have smaller mouthfuls. And the benefits of simply slowing down are quite considerable because it can help you feel full, snack less, and has also been shown to improve your blood sugar levels. And I hope your sleep. So what do you say?
Absolutely. I've never ever considered that, to be honest with you. So no, I'll give it a try. That sounds good.
I've asked Stewart to slow down over the next week. The UK is a nation of speed eaters. Apparently, we spend just 9 minutes on average eating dinner. That's less than half the time people spent eating 50 years ago. The speed you eat is affected by a lot of factors. It can be influenced by what you're eating, by your family, or the wider culture. Regardless, there are some surprising benefits that come from taking your time. The human trials in this field are small, but there are some promising findings. First of all, slowing down can help you feel fuller for longer. A recent study randomized volunteers to eating identical meals. One group had to wolf it down in 6 minutes, while the others were told to take a far more leisurely 24 minutes. Those who ate slowly reported feeling fuller, and 3 hours later, when both groups were given access to snacks, the people who had eaten slowly consumed 25% less calories from the snacks. Blood samples also revealed they had lower levels of ghrelin, a hunger hormone. Slowing down can also improve your blood sugar levels. In a recent study, Japanese researchers asked a group of healthy young women to eat a meal either slowly or quickly, and the next day they ate the same meal, but at the opposite speed. When the women took just 10 minutes to gulp down the meal, their blood sugars rose faster and stayed higher than when they took 20 minutes to eat exactly the same meal. That's important because if your blood sugar is consistently high, it can increase inflammation and your risk of type 2 diabetes. I'll be speaking to an expert about why slowing down our meals is good for our health and how to do it in just a moment. But first, let's find out how Stewart is pacing himself.
That's me halfway through the challenge. I'm on day 4 and I'm feeling a few positive effects already. I'm eating a lot less and I'm feeling fuller, and I'm also not snacking as much, so I'm very pleased about that. One challenging thing though is I've had to remind myself on a couple of occasions to eat slowly. I think I'm so used to eating quickly over the last 10 to 20 years. I have had to kind of mentally check myself and just tell myself slow down. So it's all going well. I'm hoping the second half will continue to be positive, and I'll let you know how I got on at the end of the week.
We'll catch up with Stewart again at the end of the week and see if eating slow is just one thing he'll keep doing. First, let's welcome back to the podcast Dr. Sarah Berry from the Department of Nutritional Sciences at King's College London. She's also chief scientist at Zoe and has recently run a big study looking at the effects of our eating pace on our health. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me back.
Brilliant to have you again. Now, first of all, eating speed can be subjective. What do you mean by eating slowly?
There's no clearly defined measure for what constitutes a fast eater versus a slow eater. So what we typically use is a subjective measure where we ask people, compared to an average person, do you think you eat more slowly, like an average person, or more rapidly? We know from observational studies that people that eat their food more quickly have higher levels of obesity, have higher levels of cardiometabolic disorders. So, for example, higher cholesterol, worse insulin sensitivity, etc. We know from our own published research in nearly 1,000 individuals that 32% of people say they eat more quickly. And what we found is that in individuals who reported themselves to be fast eaters, they tended to be overweight compared to people who were eating at a slower or an average pace. We also found that faster eaters had a higher energy intake. On average, they were eating more than 120 calories per day compared to those that had an average or slower rate of eating. It's quite a consistent finding across many other studies as well.
Okay, so 120 calories a day is quite a lot. Why do you think people are eating more if they eat fast?
There's lots of receptors in your lower gut that release particular chemicals that go to your brain. And if you're eating really, really fast, you don't have time for the food to reach the receptors, for the receptors to release the chemicals, and for your brain to say, whoa, I've had enough, stop eating. We also know that the more fast you eat, that you have bigger increases, for example, in circulating blood glucose. So you have a higher peak in blood glucose. So what happens is when you eat more slowly, you release more saliva. And what that does is stimulate a better insulin release. And insulin simply reduces circulating blood glucose. It removes it from your bloodstream. And we know that this can also impact factors related to hunger, for example, factors related to fullness as well.
How good is the evidence that if you eat fast, you will put on weight and you might suffer from metabolic problems like type 2 diabetes?
So we have evidence from observational studies. So these are studies where we look at people at one point in time and where we found that people who are fast eaters tend to be more overweight, tend to suffer from cardiometabolic disease like type 2 diabetes, have higher blood pressure, and higher blood cholesterol. There's also data from longitudinal studies, and these are studies where people have been followed over a number of years. And what this data has shown is that people who are faster eaters, they tend to go on to put on more weight compared to people that have been followed that are slow eaters. And then we also have quite a lot of evidence now emerging from randomized control trials. So trials where people are given very specific instructions to actually either slow down or speed up their rate of eating. And I think this is where it gets really interesting. So for example, there was a study published where females were asked to slow down the rate at which they were eating. And so they were given smaller spoons. They were asked to chew their food more frequently and to pause between bites. And what that did is that extended the time that they were eating from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. So extended the eating period by 20 minutes. And that actually slowed down the pace at which the food was being absorbed. And it also caused these individuals to consume 65 less calories at each meal.
What about the mental effects? Because I'm also thinking if you're savouring the food, you're focusing on it, then that's likely to be more beneficial for your mental health as well as your physical health.
If you can eat in a more mindful way, not just about your hunger signals, but also mindful about the taste and the texture of the food and allow yourself to have the joy from that food, I think that's a great advantage as well.
Absolutely. Now, how would you recommend people go about slowing down the rate at which they eat?
There has actually been studies that have looked at the different kinds of techniques. So one of these could be putting your knife and fork down between each mouthful. The other could be consciously chewing more. The other could be using smaller utensils, so using a teaspoon, for example, to eat your food. And research has shown that regardless of the kind of method, all of them achieve a reduction in eating rate and therefore a reduction in number of calories you eat. Having a sip of water between each mouthful is another natural way of slowing down as well the rate that you're eating. And we know that having plenty of fluid as well is great for our health.
Do you have a sort of minimum time you recommend that people try to extend their meal to?
The evidence is quite clear is to show that if you're eating in under 10 minutes, that's definitely considered too fast. And that's where we start to see real disturbances in the release of gut hormones and your hunger signals. Consistently, the studies show if you're extending up to 20 or 30 minutes, there is a benefit to your health.
Right, that's the science. Let's check in one final time with Stewart. Is he going to keep up with slowing down?
I finished day 7 yesterday and I've noticed a lot of positive benefits from this challenge. I've noticed a big improvement in my sleep quality. Previously, I'd been maybe waking up 6 or 7 times a night. It's now down to 2 or 3 times a night. So I'm much more alert in the mornings and my mood's improved a lot. I don't feel the need to snack as much, and when I do, I'm eating a lot slower. And also, one of the most important things is that hangover feeling that I used to get on a daily basis has almost completely went away. So I'm very happy with things, and I'm looking to continue this challenge and just basically make it part of my daily routine.
Okay, I'm back at the kitchen table and I'm just ladling out some supper. I'm so glad Stewart is enjoying going slow, and it's encouraging he's already noticed an impact on his snacking habits. To hear more about how to snack smart, check out BBC Sounds. Now, I've also been making a conscious effort to take my time this week. And after slaving away at the stove, there is something deeply relaxing about making the most of every mouthful and noticing the flavours. I've also been following advice, putting down my knife and fork between every mouthful, taking a good old glug of water as well. So there you are, slow down and enjoy eating, and your waistline and blood sugars may benefit.